on. I'm sure you were all getting very tired of me talking about wildfire, and I wish there would come a day when we would have so few wildfires, you guys wouldn't want to talk to me about it or hear about it from me. But unfortunately, this year is not one of those years. We're already seeing probably the largest number of wildfires to date, 551 fires this year. It's up 50% from last year, 2020 at this time, and it's about a 90% increase over the 5-year average at this time. As we know, we're seeing a significant drought, hot, dry landscape. The last few days of record hot temperatures did not help in that way at all. And as we know, our state is not alone in this drought. When we have these hot, dry temperatures like we are experiencing, our landscape gets hot and dry for long periods of time. And then it is very easy for these wildfires to start in every corner of our state, which is what we've been seeing. And unfortunately, just this last weekend, we had 3 firefighters injured, once significantly. They will all be okay, but it is not the kind of news I like to share. It's ideally we would have no injuries. Ideally, we'd have no fires. I really lean on each and every one of you to help me get the word out about how our wildfire crisis is growing, how this year is looking even worse than 2020, which we remember, and any of the years before that. I also lean on you to help us be able to raise the flag for the public to recognize that they have a significant role in actually preventing these wildfires. Too often, we think these wildfires are something we can't control, we can't manage or do anything about. There's a sense of helplessness, but the reality is almost 90% of our fires are caused by humans. Over the last 2 years alone, a majority of the fires by this point in the year are largely debris pile burns that are happening in people's backyard. And we know we are right now just days away from our national holiday. We all love to get outside, to enjoy celebrating 4th of July. And unfortunately, the more outside we are, the more we tend to bring a spark with us, the wrong kind of spark, which leads to these fires. We are urging everyone to please be safe, to be one less spark out there on our landscape and prevent the kind of wildfires we've already seen today and we've seen in previous years. I think it's interesting that last year when everybody was stuck at home and we saw fireworks on TV and we're not as much engaging in that holiday on the landscape, it actually led to fewer wildfires. We're hoping people will take the same kind of caution and have the same sense of urgency, maybe not so much with COVID, but more in the context of how any activity out on that landscape that creates a spark will create a wildfire. And right now with our landscape being as hot and dry and in so many places, it makes the risk even higher for our people and for our firefighters. Before I go to questions, I want to just do a quick pass over to Sarah. Sarah Ford is our new communications director. And she is joining us after serving as the deputy communications director for the Sanders presidential campaign. She's got great experience managing excellent communications team, and we are very, very lucky to have her joining us at DNR. I know you will enjoy working with her as much as I have enjoyed having her join the team. I like to say we got a lot of energy coming into DNR. We got a lot of energy at DNR. We obviously like to think that this energy is the safe kind of energy, not the kind of energy that creates the fires out on the landscape. So Sarah, I'm going to turn it over to you to say hello.
Thank you very much for the welcome, Commissioner. And it's nice to meet everyone here. I'm really excited to be joining the team to support the important work that the Commissioner and the agency are doing at such a critical moment. So I don't officially start until tomorrow, but I'm looking forward to having more in-depth conversations with everyone here over the coming days and weeks. So I will make sure you have my contact information. Please feel free to reach out anytime, even if just to say hello. So thanks for having me here today, and I look forward to working with you all in the near future.
All right.
I don't know if we want to do Q&A. I so miss the times we all gathered in a conference room. I got to see you all with your no mask, ready to hit the fire line. But don't know if there's questions people had before we turn it over to you guys getting your training.
Okay. Thomas?
Folks, if you do have a question for the commissioner, if you could use the raise hand feature, I can unmute you and you can ask a quick question. If there are no questions, we will transition to the question. Brian Harris from Como, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for doing this. We appreciate it. Commissioner, are there any particular areas in the state where you're most concerned about the possibility of wildfires, more that might be more prone than others?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, first of all, if you look at the drought map for Washington State, which largely covers all of central and eastern Washington, down through southwest Washington and up the coastline, those are my areas of most significant concern, obviously because of how hot and dry they are. Areas also where we tend to get wind events, you know, think about the gorge area where you've got a lot of fuel, you got a lot of hot, dry fuel, and then you add wind to it. We know what that means. It becomes a very dangerous cocktail like we had last year during the Labor Day firestorms. So largely, I would say, unfortunately, it's largely central and eastern Washington, that entire area from the grasslands to the forest lands, all the way down through the gorge and up through the coastline. You might be aware we had a fire just a few days ago in Maple Valley, right there in King County. Not necessarily is it in the drought zone map that we've seen, but doesn't mean that those areas aren't still extremely dry. And obviously a lot of human activity, which leads to more likelihood of fire.
And just a quick follow-up, if I may, to that one. I know you have fought very hard to get more money and equipment to handle this. Do you feel like we have enough, and have you already started the work to stage it around to have it ready to go? Yeah,
to be frank with you, I'll be honest, I never feel like we have enough. Unfortunately, especially this year where it is looking even worse than 2020, worse than 2018. And I've been talking to people in central and eastern Washington that remember very vividly the 2015 fires. They're saying it's worse than that, the landscape and how hot and dry it is. So unfortunately, I feel like we don't have enough. I probably won't for quite some time until we reduce the fuel load we have out there and at the same time have more resources. I will say we've done everything in our powers to secure additional resources to be as ready as we can. We have trained up all the firefighters that we have, our 1,000+ seasonal firefighters, our local fire districts, and our own state firefighters. In addition to that, we brought in more aircraft, a significant number that are on exclusive contracts. So we've increased the number of air resources, though we remember the Labor Day firestorm, we couldn't fly for those first few days because of those hurricane force winds. But those will help complement our Hueys and also our small sort of mosquito fleet fixed wing with a number of large heavies. We've already started pre-positioning those air resources in key strategic locations where we're already seeing an increased number of fires, and we know that it's likely only to continue.
Great, thank you for that.
1168, I just can't say, I will say 1168 is going to help. That resources don't come in until the end of July. We know it's going to take us time to train up 100 new firefighters. They will be critical to the addition of our team, especially as our firefighters are getting more and more tired with more and more fires earlier in the season and going longer. And we'll be able to increase air resources and get more resources down to the local fire district level, which is absolutely key, especially when we have like the Labor Day firestorms where you had 53 fires in one 24-hour period. Those resources aren't going to be coming, unfortunately, until really sort of late in the year and early next year to get ready for 2022. But that's why we're urging people to please do everything they can to prevent these fires in the first place.
Thanks for the question, Ryan. I want to transition us now to the rest of the agenda here, just because I know we're short on time and I don't want to waste anybody's time here. Janet, you want to take us?
Thank you.
Bye,
You
everyone.
bet.
Take care.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks a lot. Okay, that was a good start off. And hi, everyone. If you're just joining us, my name is Janet Pierce. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Department of Natural Resources. And I have Ryan Roderick and Thomas Kyle Millward with me, who will be introducing themselves now. And then we're going to get into the beef of this. And we're going to talk about the concerns for you guys when you're covering fire. And Ryan will cover what we're going to wear. And Thomas will talk about some important messages we want the public to know before 4th of July. It's not looking good out there, as you all know. It's very dry. So Thomas, I guess we can start with you to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hello, folks. My name is Thomas Kyle Millward. Like Janet, I'm a wildfire communications manager for DNR. I've been with the agency for a little over a year. This is my second fire season. And as pretty much any questions you all have about fire statistics, current fires on the landscape, just get in touch with Janet, myself, or Ryan, and we'll get it out. Ryan, I'll kick it to you next.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Ryan Roderick. I'm our Eastern Washington Communications Manager, and as that title implies, Central and Eastern Washington is the region I handle for our communications team. I'm also one of our wildfire PIOs. So if you have any questions specific to what's going on in Eastern Washington at the ground level, don't ever hesitate to contact me, or if you're looking to go out on a fire when the season progresses, give me a call. We'll get you out there, and here in a minute I'll kind of discuss how we go about that and the gear we'll need.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryan and Thomas. And it's good to have Ryan, because as most of you know, that we have only had PIOs on the west side of the state. So now we finally have some bandwidth on the east side to help get you guys what you need. So I'm going to tell you about some safety concerns. Let me make sure you guys can hear me okay. Is that okay, Thomas?
Yep, you sound great.
Okay. Okay, cool. Now, you guys, when you want to visit a fire camp, we want you to contact us first. A lot of times you'll call us and it won't be our fire, but we want to help you get to the PIO, the Public Information Officer, who is on that fire. So we're a great resource. If we don't have the info, we will get it for you, because we have partners we work closely with. So if you're wanting to go to a fire camp, the most critical piece is finding that PIO before you do anything with that fire. The media, you guys get out the knowledge that we want to share with the public, and we want to keep you safe. And I've heard from many of you. Is everyone muted? Anyway, I've heard from many of you that you're not getting up to the fire line. Now, I want to be clear in that we hear you every year, and we talk to our partners about getting the media up on the fire line, because you guys want to see the action in there. And more, it's become more dangerous, and we have erratic winds, and that's our biggest enemy. The winds pick up, and we can't even get our air resources up in the air. So winds are our number one enemy, I think, for us. And so if you guys can just touch base with the PIO, we can work to get you in a safe location if the incident commander allows it. Now, it doesn't even matter what organization that incident commander is with. That person will be the one calling to see if there's a place for you to go safely with the PIO. So we want you to cover the story. So it's our job to make sure you get what you need. And, I know you don't want the smoke pictures, you want the flames, as do we. We will try to get B-roll for you guys. We've been trying to do that more and more over the years. And with Ryan now on the east side, I think we're going to have opportunity to supply more B-roll of fire. So hopefully that's going to come out this year. And now I want to talk more about access. Thomas and Ryan more, but Thomas and I may not be out on the fire so much, but here's something that you really need to be concerned about. Wildfires create a lot of access problems. We have roadblocks and gates and things like that. We ask that you please don't go around the roadblocks. A lot of times you guys are pretty smooth. You'll get in with a resident to go up to see their home or something. We wouldn't recommend that, but I can't stop you from doing a good job. So, if you go up if you go up with someone, please touch base with the PIO so we can make sure you're getting the right information from the fire itself. And when you're pulling into a fire camp, please don't block any roads. It's critical that we have access through all the roads to be wide open. And so if you don't mind, please don't block anyone in, no matter if it's a fire engine or not, because it could be someone's other car that they use. So, and we know you need the story. We want you to help us tell our story. So that's critical. When you're parking, please face out. My dad always teased us growing up as Catholic that you'll notice in Catholic Mass, everyone backs in so they can get out of there when Mass is over. So I hope that's okay to say. Dad was funny. But what you need to do is make sure you're backed in. So if case we have to evacuate or anything, you never know, you can get out quickly. And that's important when you're parking on the fire camp. Ryan may be out there a lot this year. I have a feeling we're going to have quite a bit going on the way it looks. One more important thing, please watch out for the heavy equipment. Their operators, it's as if they're deaf and blind. They can't see you, but you can see them. So please be aware of any heavy equipment and fire trucks, things like that in the area. And most important, when you're coming out there, you all know that you need to have water. We'll supply water, but you can't have enough. And it's important that you hydrate because under those conditions, you can dehydrate fast. So that's important for you guys. And aircraft, we ask for your help in when the aircraft, they're dipping or dropping buckets or something. We want the public to stay back. And that's becoming a problem because people want to see it. They've sent us great pictures that they get, but we want them to be safe. So it would be important that you guys kind of send out the message that stay clear of all aircraft, helicopters and fire bosses, all that we have. And if you're out there and you see inmates, we have many inmates who help us fight fire. And it's a great program. And if you come across an inmate, you probably won't, but please don't interview them or take their picture without their supervisor's permission. There are laws protecting that inmate depending on what they're in for, things like that. So please, come to one of us before you interview someone. And here's the critical message that we want to get across. Some of you have drones now, which is really awesome. But if you guys fly the drones on the fire, we can't put our aircraft up because it puts everyone in harm's way. It's critical that you work with the incident commander, the PIO, to see if there are some coordinates that you can get up and take some photos. But please don't do that without our permission because it will put our firefighters in harm's way, actually. So let's see. I think I'm covering everything. I want you guys to know if you're going out on a fire, but please know you contact any three of us before you head out so we can make sure you're in touch with that PIO. And if they don't have one, a lot of times things are happening fast and y'all heard it on the scanner. Give us a call so we can be in touch. And as soon as we get that PIO information, we can get it to you. So we want you to have it as soon as possible so you can get out there and cover. So I know that was a lot. Just so you guys know, I will be putting this on Box and sending out the link to each one of your email addresses. So you'll have this, the safety concerns for the media. You'll have the agenda of what we covered today and a PowerPoint from Angie Lane. That's going to be interesting. Angie, and we have Vaughn Cork, who is our fuel specialist too, and he'll be telling you about our fuels. So what we'll do is I think we'll turn it over to Ryan now so he can model the PPE. Mind you, some of you, I won't say what outlet, but you're amazing at having the PPE on hand. And Ryan will go over that, but just remember the most critical piece you guys can purchase is your boot, because we can supply possibly the green and yellow shirt and pants. So with that, Ryan, are you ready to model?
We're ready to go. So
yeah,
what
baby.
I'm going to do is there's a lot of gear that's involved in firefighting and going to the fire line. I'm going to breeze through this pretty quick. There's a lot to go over, but I'm going to do some of the do's and don'ts, what all the gear does, and at the end, kind of where you can acquire all this magic stuff. So the first thing I'm going to go over kind of head to toe is the stuff that is absolutely required if you're going to go on the fire line. And one of the absolute requirements is this stuff right here. You're really familiar with it, this iconic yellow and green stuff. This is made out of a fabric called aramid. You probably know it by its trademark name of Nomex. It is highly fire resistant stuff, and it is absolutely required if you're going to go on the line. It is flame and heat resistant up to about 700 degrees. That certainly doesn't mean that you can just hold your hand over a 700-degree fire and nothing's going to happen. It's designed to keep you safe and mitigate the risk, but it is not 100% fireproof. It is fire resistant, and the goal is really to keep the heat, keep the embers, anything that can burn you off your body. This is generally issued through DNR. You can purchase it on your own. It's a little pricey, and I'll kind of go over where you can acquire some of this at the end. Moving down, you'll want to, if you need a belt, it needs to be 100% leather and metal gear. Nothing that can burn, no synthetic fabrics. The other thing that we'll need to have you issued is a hard hat. This is another non-negotiable item. This is not a standard hard hat that you can just go buy at a construction supply store. This is specific to firefighting. And I'll take a quick detour now that I've kind of talked about the big three items here. Something called the Nfpa 1977 standard. That is the standard for all gear that is involved in wildland firefighting. And that includes the helmet, your Nomex, your boots, your gloves, all to a standard called NFPA 1977. And you can look inside the gear that there is a tag inside that'll make that NFPA 1977 standard. And that's really critically important that you look for that, because it means it's specific to firefighting. Back to this helmet, again, it's kind of looks like a standard construction helmet. What you'll do is just pop it on your head. There's a ratcheting mechanism in the back here, tighten that up. You'll also see that there's kind of a strap I have tucked behind my head here. Should you need to go on a helicopter at any point, this is required because it's going to keep that helmet there on your head. The other required item is a set of leather gloves. These are just 100% leather gloves. They are specific to firefighting with that NFPA standard, but you can generally find a decent leather glove that'll kind of make the standard at just about any hardware store. And then we also occasionally will have pairs of these on hand for you. I want to talk a minute about base layer. This is kind of where you're going to run into a lot of do's and don'ts. Your base layer has to be 100% cotton or wool. We can't do any kind of synthetic fabric. So Under Armour shirts won't do it. It's got to be 100% cotton or wool. And the idea behind that is those synthetic materials will melt if they get too hot. And they can potentially burn you if they get too hot. So it's got to be 100% cotton or 100% wool for all your base layer items. Another thing I want to talk about on base layer is with your t-shirts, even if it's 100% cotton, it can't have any silk screened or otherwise synthetic logos on it. Those will melt. You want to make sure that there's just a plain 100% cotton or 100% wool on your base layer. Also the same for your socks. You're really not going to want to have synthetic material. I strongly recommend 100% wool. You can wear a cotton sock. I assure you, you will be pretty miserable. 100% wool socks tend to work the best. Footwear. This is your NFPA kind of standard issue firefighting boot. Some of the specifications you'll need to make, it needs to measure 8 inches from the inside of the heel to the top of the shank. Needs to have fire resistant or leather laces. And really importantly, it has to have all leather construction for the upper, the tongue, the shank, all of it, all leather construction. It also needs to have a fire-resistant sole on it. A company called Vibram makes most of the fire-resistant soles, but basically it's all rubber sole, and the reason for that is tread issues. You don't want to slip, and also fire and heat issues. What you don't want is your shoes to melt. And with that, I'll give you one other example here. These guys are a no-go for the fire line. No athletic sneakers, no athletic shoes. These are all synthetic now. They will melt. Even if we're not on an active fire line, even if the fire has already burned over, the ground is still intensely hot, these shoes will melt. If you try to go on a fire line with them, they don't offer the support we need. Please just no tennis shoes. Let's see, everything else just, to be aware of, really just try to get away from anything synthetic. I know it's hard to do. A lot of your base layers are going to have elastic, wire, some of that there's just no getting away from, but try to eliminate as much synthetic fabric as you can. Now I'll talk really quick about where we can acquire some of this. So for the Nomex, as Janet mentioned, most of the time, if you can give us some advance notice that you're wanting to go out on a fire, we can generally supply this. Same with hard hats. I'll probably always be able to supply you a decent hard hat. The rest of the stuff, base layers, this belt is the $9.99 Walmart special. It's lasted me 2 seasons now. It works great. Same thing with the wool socks. You can get those just about anywhere. Standard t-shirt, standard other base layers. For boots, there is no way to sugarcoat it. A quality 1977 Nfpa engineered boot is incredibly expensive. They range anywhere from $200 to $500. If you are looking to have a boot that's specific to firefighting, if it's your plan to be covering fires in the West throughout your career, this potentially might be a good investment for you. There are some boots that, while they don't specifically say NFPA standard on them, they tend to be at a lower price point and will double as hikers while still kind of checking off all the boxes. You might want to look for brands. Loa makes an excellent hiker boot that will double as a fire boot. La Sportiva makes one. Dnr makes one, and an Italian company called Zamberlan makes one. These are from a company in Spokane called Whites. They're specifically designed to be NFPA 1977 rated boots. Nick's in Spokane is another place you can get them. Same thing with Nomex. You can buy Nomex just on the regular civilian market. You can Google Wildland Fire Supply, or Janet will be sending around some links that have links to all that. It is able to be commercially purchased. Again, it is really expensive stuff. Some newsrooms have them. Generally, we'll have them. If you want to buy them yourself, again, if you're planning on spending your career covering a lot of fire in the West, it could potentially be an investment, but we'll send you around a lot of those links. I'll be happy to address any questions at the end, just in the interest of time. I see a couple of them coming through the chat here, but we really appreciate you all being out. We really appreciate you telling the story of fire, and my goal is to get you out there to tell that story as safely as we can. And as we progress through certain areas of the fire you want to go on, there's some stuff that will be flexible, and some gear that is absolutely non-negotiable, especially if we're going into a place with active firefighting. There will be required gear. So we're happy to answer any questions at the end. Hopefully that didn't go too fast for you and you were able to absorb some of that. And I just want to thank you for, again, taking time to train with us today. So I'll kick it back to Janet and Thomas.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay. That
right, Janet.
Right. Okay, Thomas, now let's talk safety.
So I'm going to need to hunch over my laptop. A couple of folks have noticed that my mic is faint, so I'm going to mute my video so that you're not all subjected to a real close-up of my ugly mug here. The commissioner kind of mentioned at the top how vital the media is in our attempts to communicate with the public and get everybody informed on best practices to navigate both whatever current environments we're seeing on the landscapes and also just best practices. You know, we've you know, the drought and the heat dome effect we just navigated here in the Pacific Northwest are real. It's impacting fire season, and the message that we're hoping to disseminate to the public through you all is just one of, you know, responsibility and you know, not causing that spark, not going out to recreate and inadvertently contributing to you know, something that could turn into a devastating wildfire. You know, and the number one thing in my mind is fireworks right now as we approach the 4th of July. I had a fireworks stand pop up about 3 blocks from my house. It's got the big pavilion, looks really exciting. But the irony is that it's set up in a field in which the grass is so dry, it's almost white. You know, and fireworks are a hazard. I know lighting them off in your front yard on the 4th is a tradition, and you know, I can't stop you from that, but I can urge folks to skip the front yard display this year. Of course, fireworks are banned on public lands as well, and there are just some tips and tricks also for non-firework related recreational activity as well that are great to put out there, such as making sure your dirt bikes or ATVs have operating spark arresters. If you do happen to be in an area where campfires are permitted, I know that we have a bunch of campfire burns going on right now. Make sure you're dousing those fires, stirring and dousing them until cool to the touch before you leave the camp area. You know, it's always good to prepare for wildfire by creating defensible space around your home and other outdoor structures, reducing dry fuels around your home by cleaning rooftops and gutters, limbing dead branches off of trees on your property. That's always a positive. But, you know, as far as being proactive, it's always good to pay attention to burn restrictions in your area. The commissioner did mention that we're seeing a bunch of debris fires. I think the latest numbers I've seen are that we've had 551 fires, and over half of those fires this year have been caused by debris piles burning out of control. You know, just be responsible. That's the message we want to share with folks. Be responsible. Ensure that our wildland firefighters stay healthy by mitigating the number of fires that they have to respond to in a given season. That's pretty much all I had to share, Janet. I'm going to kick it back over to you.
Perfect, Thomas. Thank you. And here comes a very interesting presenter. Angie Lane is our Assistant Wildfire Division Manager for Plans and Information. And she comes from Oregon, but she's been with us for several years. And she is amazing on fire information. So Angie, if you are ready, and I appreciate your comments in the chat about the whites versus Dnnrs and things like that. There's all type of boots. So Angie, if you're ready, we'll let you kick it off and talk about some our outlook and our stats and where our resources are. Okay, we'll take a minute, you guys. She might have technical difficulties.
No, I just don't know how to work the unmute button.
Hi, Angie. All right.
Oh, gosh. I would give a nickel for every time I would hear, you haven't unmuted yet. Anyway, just to continue with the introduction, I'm Angie Lane, Assistant Division Manager for Plans and Info, like Janet said, came to you from Oregon. My qualifications in fire are Type 1 PIO. I served as a lead PIO on ODF teams down in Oregon. I'm a Type 2 Plans Section Chief So I am on one of the Northwest teams as a planned section chief right now. But because of my job, I still play in the PIO arena. Sometimes I'm down at Northwest helping their office with media requests. So you might call me down there once in a while. Anyway, for today, just to let you know, all the information I'm sharing with you today is information that I, myself and my staff, we push out to the comms staff. Janet and Thomas are our counterparts, and we get them what they need to get you what you need. So with that, I will go ahead and share my screen. First, I want to make sure, don't you just love this too? This is a bad habit, is talking to my computer while I'm trying to give a presentation. Okay, that should be coming through. How does that look?
Looks great, Angie.
Okay, and I'm going to stop my video. All right, so here we are, fire season outlook and readiness. This is probably nothing new to a lot of folks because we've been pushing out this information quite frequently. Also, you heard from the commissioner, she couldn't have teed this presentation up more perfectly. So, one thing I wanted to share with you folks is we're part of a bigger operation in fire, in wildfire. We're part of what's known as a complete and coordinated system. So Washington sits in there with what's known as the Northwest GAC. It's a geographic communication area, and you notice across the United States we have several GACs. Our information gets shared with the Northwest Communication Center, and they share that information out for both Oregon and Washington. So sometimes you'll hear us make sure that you understand that the information we're sharing is for Washington DNR fires only. If we're looking at fires in the Northwest, or we're looking at fires that are part of the entire state. So it would be fires that the federal agencies report, fire service reports. That information gets moved to the GAC so that they can push it out as a regional snapshot of what's going on. The reason why that's important to know is as we're working on fires throughout the season, we have adjacent partners. So we are a partner with Oregon under an agreement. We share resources. We're also part of a master agreement with 5 other federal agencies and tribal agencies. And so again, all of us working together, supporting each other, all part of this complete and coordinated system. As you also know, you need all 3 of these components to make a fire go. Depending on how these components, what do I want to say? The factor of these components, how they're weighing in on this triangle, that tells you how intense, how severe a fire might be. The one thing that happened to us last fall during Labor Day, of course, was that wind event that came in. That was extreme wind, never before experienced. We had one fire that moved 50 miles within the span of a burn period. So that wind was an example of something that, while we were prepared for it, Washington fared a little better, believe it or not, even though we had our own tragedies, than Oregon did. I think that part of it, I think I can safely say, is that we do have quite a complement of resources, including our own aviation. So that's very helpful. However, in wind conditions like that, you know, it's a little hard to use the aviation assets, but we were there when we needed to be, and we tried to keep the fires as small as we could. These fire statistics, just to let you know, we prepare monthly reports. So we gin down our stats every month at the start of every month. And we're getting ready to gear up for the next month's report that will take you January 1st through June 30th. Obviously, we start working on that after the month ends. I wanted to let you know that also when we get into other information parts and pieces, you will note that there are timestamps on that. And because of the amount of scrutiny and things like that that it takes to pull these stats together when you're talking month, year, daily, we just can't grab them quickly. So we have these different phases, different times that we can publish stuff like that. So sometimes we may have to say something like, as of X date, this is what we know. Once the fire season gets very busy, our dispatch office gets very busy, then sometimes the reporting on those fires might take 24, 48 hours before we can get caught up. So I just want you to be wary of that. Also, when we report stats, we report DNR fires only. We can work with Northwest Coordination Center. I said Communication Center earlier, sorry about that. Or you can work with Northwest Coordination Center. But the bottom line is the stuff that we produce is stuff that we know because it's our fire statistic. So this slide right here, I guess I should point out that as our year is shaping up, you see that 2021 is looking, I wouldn't say dire yet. We don't have any large fires on the landscape. We did have some mobilization fires that State Fire Marshal Office declared. But other than that, for DNR, right now, we have no large fires on the landscape. So you'll see here later that our acres are down. But number of fires is looking like we're exceeding our 10-year average and also what happened last year. For our year-to-date on count by region, you can see how we calculate our fires across each region. We have 6 regions in the state. So, we rely on those regions to report up to us. So you can see how that might create a delay, or we might not have the absolute last fire noted in our statistics because we are waiting for those regions to report to us. And like I said, once they get very, very busy with fire, and Northeast is one of our busier regions, sometimes they need a breath to catch up before they can start catching up on their reports. This is the statistic that supports what the commissioner said earlier. Our human cause fire ignitions are, in my opinion, alarming. They are out of control in my mind. I don't recall seeing in my time as a fire manager down in Oregon, that kind of thing. Oregon's different. We have a different structure when it comes to burn restrictions. We ourselves as fire managers were fire wardens, so we could issue citations. So maybe that had something to do with it. Don't quote me on that. I'm just saying that this trend of human cause fires needs some work. We really need to start pushing prevention. We've got 4th of July coming up. I was driving to work today and I noticed that there are big signs everywhere. There is a fireworks ban in Thurston County. So our counties and our fire districts are definitely trying to get the word out on this stuff. And so the work that you guys do to help us push that prevention message is very welcome. Right here, this is the to-date stats. I'm sorry, this is a little blurry. These are clips out of our daily report, but you can see and Thomas and Janet, we had an error with our script, so now we've got the correct information. We have 564 fires. You can see how they're broken out there, east side versus west. Our west side has been very active as well, even though, you know, they don't have the number of fires the east side does. Our acres, 1,300 acres so far, and I would offer that we've been doing fire since it felt like we actually had some recorded fires in January and February. So to only have 1,300 acres so far, folks are out there really beating those fires back. We're using our aviation assets as quickly as possible. Our firefighters are getting to those fires as quickly as possible, as well as our other partners. So I feel like all of us working together, we've actually done a pretty good job trying to stop 564 fires from getting to be large fire. You'll see down below in the bottom that our numbers are up. You know, again, that's that human element, and we've got to get on that. And then but the beauty is here our acres are down. Once Vaughn talks to you, you'll find out that we probably are on the virtual edge, if you will. This isn't going to last. This feeling of, okay, the acres are low, isn't going to last as this summer progresses, if you look at the forecasts and the outlooks. Okay, this is our dashboard. When I get done with my presentation here, I'll pop into the dashboard real quick just so you guys have this information. I would bookmark it if I were you, and I'll show you some of the different things that you can see on this dashboard. Right now, what I'm displaying is fire danger, and the work that Vaughn does in his program. This is how we get this information. So you can see that we're looking at very high fire danger in our basin. Most of our east and some of our western counties are in high fire danger, and then the remainder of the state is moderate. So we're progressing, and like I said, this could potentially get worse as we go on. Significant fire potential. These are one of those data points that come monthly as well. Nfpa puts this out, our National Fire Center, and so it tracks this potential. Also, you notice that things aren't looking so good in July and August, other than maybe our northwestern part of the state. So significant fire potential, just to let you know, this means that that's different than saying we have large fire potential. So significant means that there's a risk of large, costly fires that are going to require extra resources to put out. And so that's, you know, if we have a wind event or some sort of widespread lightning event, the potential for significant fire is above normal for July and August for most of our state. For our readiness, I just wanted to let you know that our seasonal staff have all been hired and they're ready to fight fire. We also tap into what we need to correct this term, militia. Let's not use that. Our ready reserve or something like that. These are the personnel from our other DNR departments that help us in fire. So we have over 800 of those folks that we tap into during emergency events. DNR has 120 engines available for IA. The numbers vary daily just based on scheduling. We also have our own Type 2 initial attack hand crews. So we have 2 of those crews in Northeast and 1 in Southeast. We also have a dozer in Northeast. The commissioner talked about House Bill 1168 a little bit and how some of that will help us with our resource capacity. And I do know that we're looking at putting a dozer program together so that the number of dozers will increase. As far as I know today, we have up to 26 correctional crews available. These are 10-person crews, and their numbers vary as well depending on their supervisory schedules. We have 11 Type 2 DNR helicopters. They're already deployed. They've been working diligently already this year. We have 2 Type 1 helicopters contracted right now. We also contract 6 amphibious single engine air tankers. Those are the ones that you've been seeing for many years that DNR has always contracted with. We also have air attack. Those okay. The air attack, those are the planes in the sky that direct the air traffic. And then it was mentioned that we're also bringing on additional aircraft. And so we will have tanker capacity here starting next month. We also work with our fire service quickly, 590 agencies. And then we are able to tap into the Type 2 and Type 1 teams that the Northwest hosts. And then we also have 8 Type 3 teams within the state that are hosted locally in the different regions. And this year we trained 769 new firefighters. 180 of those were National Guard troops. So that is what I know. Janet, I don't know if we have time for the dashboard. So if you don't think so, then I will.
I think we do, because it would be nice for them to see it. They're going to use this as a resource all the time. So we do have time. We're early, so please do.
Okay. So I shall reshare my screen. And oops. Sorry for the delay here. That's the one part of Zoom that's a little funky, is you can't bounce from screen to screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so how's that? Everybody can see the dashboard?
Yes.
Oh, just a second here. Sorry about that. Okay, so with the dashboard, when you come to the link, this is the first thing you'll see. So you have to manipulate your layers a little bit depending on what you want to see. So this is where you would head over here to that little screen. And you can turn on different things, like you can see satellite imagery, topographic layer, that kind of thing. When you get into these little ditties, the pluses, you drop down. Right now we have it set to look at the counties, so you can see each county. The one thing that is showing right now is under weather. And so we're showing any current watches or warnings right now. If you click on that, click on the screen, you see it's for excessive heat watch. We also have, I thought there was going to be a red flag warning, but anyway, you're able to click around in here to see what those are. I like to turn on the information that Vaughn generates. So this is our fire danger. And the nice thing about that is you can clearly see the fire points. So here, these are, if I go over to this tab, sorry about that, not that tab. If I go to this tab down here, this is the legend. So you can see that anything blue is less than 24 hours old. And if you click on that point, then it tells you, now this says false. So that was a false alarm. So we must have went, there wasn't anything there. So we came home. And then, the nice thing, it tells you when it started, so how many hours ago, what the number is. If there's a cause, it would be noted here. You know that we have a lot that we leave under investigation until we get the actual cause determined. And then who the dispatch center is. So that's what's great about that. When you see a flame, then these are fires that somebody has started a situation report on. So you might have a little more detail. These are what would be a large fire. So now I don't know why somebody started a SIT report on 20 acres, but they're able to start one on any fire they choose. We just like to use the trigger of 100 acres in timber, 300 in grass. So, but These guys are Johnny on the spot. And for the west side, that actually is a large fire. So anyway, and then when you click on this tab here, this tells you, you can see last updated. So this morning we updated our roster, if you will, and these are the DNR engines that are going to be available across the state. I said we had 120. You notice that only 88 are on today, but that doesn't mean that we can't bring more people on if the emergency arises. And then here's our crew component. One thing to note, remember I said that Northeast and Southeast were the only regions with the Type 2 crews. These other crews that are noted are our camps crews. So those are the 10-person crews, the corrections crews. All right. And then this is how our aviation assets would be distributed across the state. If we had large air tankers or very large air tankers in the state, it would be noted here. And then you can tell if they're on the west or the east side. In GAT means that Northwest has them, so they're in Oregon or Washington. When you go here, this is where you can see last updated on stats and fire causes, stats for the month, acres burned for the month. This, if you hover over, you'll see there are 9 general fire causes, and of the 9, this is how things shake out. 237 of our 564 fires are debris burn. That's how that works there, if you just scroll around. And then this little link is to everything that comms tweets out. And so we hang on to this stuff as well. That's all I had.
That's perfect, Angie. Thank you for showing that. I will be making sure in box when I send all of you a link to that this fire, I have wildfire resources for all of you. And we'll make sure we have the fire dashboard, which is going to be a critical piece for you guys to turn to get updated stats right away. So Angie, thank you. I really appreciate you. Are you able to hang on to help answer questions, or do you have?
Yep.
Okay, you're awesome. And I love the picture of your puppies. So thank you, Angie. And now Vaughn Cork, our fire behavior expert, and he can tell you all about the fuels. Some of you have interviewed with Vaughn before, and he is extremely knowledgeable of what's going on and on our landscape and how quickly it's drying out. So Vaughn, if you're ready to talk about the fuels, we'll have you go next.
Yeah, absolutely. You hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So good on Angie for showing the dashboard page. I was going to pull that one up. That being the case, I don't have to do that, but there is another one that I'd like to show. So hopefully you all are able to see this now.
Yes.
So this is, there's a second part to the fire danger that we generally talk about, and that is what burn bans are in effect. And this page, which I'll put the link in the chat once I'm done. This only shows fire danger and burn ban statuses across the state. So there's nothing else. You're not going to get any other fire information or anything like that. But if you're interested in what the burn ban statuses are, this will show you exactly what they are. It's in a graphical format here with the hash marks, and then same with the other maps. If you click on it, it will pull in the specific information. You can just, often there's more than one page that pops up depending on what information you're looking for. So you can see in this area the fire danger is high, and then in the notes it will list specific burn ban information and contact information for reaching out to the region that's responsible. So there's that to go with for burn ban information, and again fire danger information. This is in Thurston and Pierce counties is a glitch that we do have burn bans in place there, and if you click on them it will show it, but for whatever reason it does not visually show it very well. Those two counties have been displaying improperly for quite a while. So the next thing I wanted to cover is you know, Angie showed the fire potential outlooks, and this is kind of where they're getting the information from. So we're looking at the Climate Prediction Center information for July, and then the 3-month period of July, August, and September. And on the left here, you can see we're looking at above average temperatures through July, and then again through the 3-month period, and then below average precipitation likely in July, and then continuing through the remainder of the summer. So the fuels conditions that we have on the ground right now are not likely to improve much, and that's what I'll get into next here. So this will be a little bit technical, but this is one of the pages that we use to determine where our fire danger is at, and to kind of keep track of where our season is at as far as comparing to past instances. So one of the primary values that we use to determine how severe the season is looking right now is this value right here. This is the energy release component. This gives you an idea of how much energy is available to release out of, you know, a given fuel bed. And the more moisture, the more water content that is in there, the lower this number is going to be. And this black line here represents where we're at as of yesterday versus the all-time maximum that we have recorded. So you can see with the heat wave that we had, this pushed into new maximums for the day by a lot. So we set new maximums starting on June 25th, and we're still setting new maximums for the energy release component now. In comparison to past years, that's one of the questions that comes up fairly frequently, is like, what does this look like compared to normal and compared to past years? Well, this gray dashed line is normal, or average at least. And so you can see we are very, very, very far above normal for how dry conditions are. And just for a sense of where this is King County, Pierce County, Kitsap, parts of Mason County. I'll show you the map for where this covers in just a second. But you know, so we're talking Puget Sound, Central Lowland area. To compare to some of our more nasty fire years in this particular area, we look at 2009 was a particularly bad year. We had we set a lot of our previous heat records in this area in 2009. And that was around this particular point in time, around the July 30th time frame. And so we set our all-time maximums at that point in time. But as far as compared to the same time of year, we were far, far below fuel conditions at this time in 2009, which was one of the most severe years for fire activity in this particular location. One of the other things that we like to look at is the dead fuel moistures, and this information up here is what we use for making fire decisions as to like how many resources that we need to have on staff for that particular day in this area. What kind of response needs to go out, you know, so whether we send a single engine or we send 5 engines in a helicopter and 2 hand crews and things along those lines. This information all informs that. But the dead fuel moistures are another key indicator, especially for Western Washington. And this is the 1,000-hour fuel moisture. So we're talking big, heavy logs with this large diameter material. Takes a very long time to dry out, takes a very long time to absorb water again. And you can see from our current location, we're again setting new records for how low the water content is in the heavy fuels that are out there on the landscape. And it's not likely to come up. This is one of those situations where we need some significant wetting rains to bring the moisture in these heavy fuels back up. And there's not much chance of getting that at this point in time without some significant pattern shifts. we keep all of these various index values for folks to look at and make our fire decisions. So like I mentioned, this was for the central Puget Sound lowlands, so that's in here. So we're covering King County, the lowland portions of King and Pierce County, Thurston, Mason, Kitsap, parts of western Jefferson and Clallam counties. We get down into the southern area, the southern lowlands and the valleys, and we're in similar situations for them. Setting new maximums, but not as extreme. And then we'll transition over to kind of what we're seeing as the high risk areas at the moment. The lower basin, the lower Columbia Basin on the east side is one of our more hazardous areas at this point in time. And this is different set of graphics, different folks have put these together, but they tend to show the same thing, the same indices, the same fire danger stuff. So what you can see with the lowlands, or the Columbia Basin, again, setting new daily maximums. We haven't hit the all-time maximum out there, but we're up at the 100th percentile. So it is extremely rare for weather conditions to make the combination that we have to see the fire danger that we have pretty much all across the state right now. And that's one of the scarier aspects of what we're seeing. This particular location, 2015, is the year to remember for the Columbia Basin, and you can see here we are surpassing the conditions that we had in 2015, which most folks would remember. It was a horrid year for fire activity, and again, it doesn't look like we're going to see any significant relief from those conditions. That's pretty much all I have to share, unless there are questions.
Actually, we will have questions. That's perfect, Vaughn. And I appreciate the graphics. You're kind of doom and gloom if we're comparing that from 2015, which really stunk for most of us. And now this year is going to be a huge challenge. So that's why this is important to get this information out there to all the media and let them see what they're in for too while they cover the fire. So thank you. Go ahead.
I will point out one more thing. So it does look extremely dire on the west side in particular, where we're
you guys,
I knew it was coming.
One, so
good job.
It's okay. It's adorable. Okay.
I knew it was coming at some point in time.
Right.
But, so the really important piece for Western Washington, we have some really dire fuel conditions, but when we have typical weather scenarios of onshore flow with a lot of humidity and cooler temperatures, that's a significant mitigating factor. What is the major concern and where it really perks our attention up is when we see those offshore flow events where we get that warm, dry air coming from the desert side of the state. That's when we go from, fires that are, 10 or 15 acres to the occult burn of 500,000 acres in 2 days, or the Forks fire in 1950 that went 17 miles in an afternoon. That's the concerning factors. That's the critical pattern. So when we see those, that's when it would be extremely important to put notices out there. And that's exactly what occurred last year over Labor Day. We just slightly dodged the bullet, and it only impacted Southwest Washington. We had 20,000 acres on the Gifford Pinchot versus, Beachy Creek that, looked like it was going to burn all the way down into the Willamette Valley. So we got lucky and missed it. But that weather pattern tends to set up in July and August and September for us.
Okay.
Now I'm done.
Thanks a lot. Okay, yeah, Colt burn. I know Washington is going to be, Western Washington is going to be keeping their eye out because many of us have a lot of trees and shrubs. And yeah, so thank you for that, Vaughn. Do you have a few minutes to stick on for our questions?
Absolutely.
You are great. So we can go to the questions, and Thomas will be handling that. And we also have Angie and Vaughn staying on to help us answer.
Doing it here. If you have a question, throw it into the chat with the preferred DNR member you would like to have answer the question. I'm going to go through the questions that we've already received so far. Janet, and the first question is actually for you. We were asked for some clarity on who and how media members can get in contact with someone to figure out how to get out to a fire. You had mentioned PIOs. How does a media member figure out who the PIO is in charge of a specific fire to make that call, make that contact? Janet, did I lose you?
Mute. Sorry, guys. Okay, that's a good question because many of you have. Oh shoot!
You're there, Janet. I can hear you.
Oh, and you just muted yourself again.
We might need to circle back to that.
I got it. I think.
Oh no! Janet's
Sorry.
there.
Okay, I apologize, you guys. Okay. When a fire's starting off, you don't know who to call. That's why you have Thomas, Ryan, and myself to call so we can find out who that is. We never know who's going to be out on the fire with our various teams and public information officers. So if you guys can call us, we can help get that information for you. And it's usually ASAP. You guys are on your way to the fire and you say, hey, who can I contact? It might take us a little bit, but we can help you out. So in this box account that I'm going to send all of you a link, we'll have all three of us, our contact information. So you'll need that, and you can always contact us when in doubt. So we want to be that valuable resource to you. So does that help? Although Thomas' screen's frozen. Okay. Okay, I think I might have lost Thomas. You guys, we are recording this, but some of you have asked, will I be able to see it afterwards? And we hope so. The technology lately has been down, and the internet has been down at my house. So I apologize for any difficulties we're having. But let's see, until Thomas can jump back on, I'll see if I can address your questions. Let's see here. I'm going back to them. Okay, so bear with me. Okay, for people who are new to the area, why fireworks are so dangerous and contributing to fires. Well, as Vaughn had told us how dry our landscapes, everything's so dry. And we're about to be at that crispy point in many locations. Now, any kind of spark, yes, fireworks have a ton of sparks, even I was going to call them sprinklers, but the sparklers that kids have that kind of make sparks, that can cause a fire. And those are safe and insane fireworks. So the bottom line is fireworks are extremely dangerous in our summertime. We prefer people to do them in January to celebrate the new year. Okay,
Sorry, folks, I got disconnected there.
There we go. That's okay. Okay, I answered fireworks.
To touch on the firework question just a little bit more, I think I saw that Bellamy had asked for some actual statistics on fireworks, and I do have here, I believe if I can grab it. Yeah, I have a chart here that I can sort of share some numbers from. Now, and this also adds to another question I saw in there about DNR fires versus fires from other agencies. The numbers that we provide, generally speaking, are DNR jurisdiction fires, and thus excludes other agencies like Fire Service, Forest Service, BLM, etc. That being said, once we kind of get into the fire season, we generally are able, with a lot of work, to track down a roughly accurate statewide total acres burn number, but that is only really able to be compiled by manually reaching out to all these agencies and sort of exchanging info. And so we definitely would not be able to provide an information like statewide firework fires. But I can give you the DNR numbers. We've already had a few this year. I don't have an accurate number for this year yet because we still have fires under investigation, but we have had multiple firework fires already this season. And then looking back at like 2020 and 2019, we had 20 fires started by fireworks in 2020, 22 fires started by fireworks in 2019, and then 36 and 30 respectively fires started 2018, 2017. And so that might not seem like a huge number, but one of the reasons why we're so concerned right now is that, as Vaughn and Angie have sort of illustrated, generally speaking, most July 4ths, our fuels are not as dry as they are right now. We're ahead of the curve when it comes to fuel conditions, just based on the weather we've seen so far. And so we're even more susceptible than usual to a firework related fire. And we do see on these big holiday weekends, we do see an uptick in fires just based on the fact that like for example, Father's Day, you see an uptick in outdoor recreation connected to the holiday, and then that leads to increased chance for human caused fires. Angie, did you have anything to add to that explanation?
I do. I actually have something I can share with folks here. If you look at the dashboard again, this is under fire risk. So just a little study we did to see where are these fireworks fires happening. And so obviously you can make some assumptions by zooming in on some of the data, but mainly around those areas where if there's a fireworks display, generally the people that live in and around that area are also popping off fireworks around their house. In places where people recreate, they're out there popping off fireworks. So this is what a 4th of July weekend would look like with respect to our historic fire occurrence, showing where those fires have happened. And generally it's where the people are. And that doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, but this shows us something here in the form of prevention. This would be where we would target prevention messaging. And then, of course, this year, Vaughn, I wonder if you could share what's the difference between the county issuing a ban and DNR issuing a ban?
Sure. So as far as fireworks go, DNR's restricted regardless of time of year. They're not legal on public lands at any point in time. But the counties can go more strict. We try and work as closely as possible with all of our partners, from county level up through DNR, through state or other state agencies, and with the federal land management agencies, to make sure that our restrictions are tightly matched to avoid confusion. So if you cross an arbitrary jurisdictional boundary, that you're not out of compliance after that point. So we do try and keep those tight, but the counties can go more strict than we go. And it does happen fairly frequently. So some of the counties will push a burn ban or push a fireworks ban when we're not doing the same.
Thank you, Vaughn. Again, folks, I disconnected, and so that wiped my chat. I think I might give up on the messages typed into the chat and just go back to what we did at the top, which was raise your hand and I can unmute you and have you ask your question in person. So go ahead and do that if you have additional questions. Bellamy, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't mean to take up all the airspace here, so hopefully others have questions as well. Just a reiteration, if one of you could, about the timing on this. It sounds like in the past, the 4th of July was maybe less of a concern, or if we look at the statistics, it doesn't look like very many fires, but we've had this extraordinary heat event that has dried everything out, right? So that's causing more, I know, for example, Bothell I think the electorate in Bothell voted down a fireworks ban in the past. And just last night, the city council enacted an emergency ban on fireworks. I imagine that's happening in other places as well. And I'm just looking for more explanation of, what's different.
I think as far as I'm concerned, that is the summary. I see Vaughn nodding his head. And this is not just, this isn't just Thomas from DNR is grumpy about fireworks. We're seeing this in Oregon. I think Portland just banned fireworks. I think I saw that on Twitter this morning. It's something that you're going to see more and more of across the Pacific Northwest. I feel like as we keep closing in on the holiday. Yeah,
I'll back that up. It's the status of field conditions. We're usually not this dry and this critical at this point in time. That typically doesn't happen until the latter half of July and early August.
Okay, thank you, Bellamy. Let's
Thank
go
you.
to Eric.
Hi. So earlier, Janet had mentioned speaking with the PIOs on the fire crews to be able to fly drones. I had always assumed that on an active fire scene, there was just no possibility of flying a drone. Does this mean that there's an increased likelihood, or DNR is going to try to work with us more to be able to get our drones up to look at active fire scenes?
I can address that briefly, and maybe Angie, you want to tap onto what I say, but actually we don't want drones around, and especially the public. They have interfered throughout the state and throughout the entire states. So we might have an opportunity on a smaller fire. Thank you for asking this, Eric, because I do need to clarify. If it's a smaller fire, we may have the bandwidth to work with you. But don't expect that you're going to be able to get to that fire and be able to put your drone up just because you're working with a PIO. It all varies on the fire. And if it's a smaller fire, we might have an opportunity to work and have a great partnership with that. So, Angie, do you have anything to add to that?
If you fly, we can't.
Right.
So if, if it were like a local fire where no aviation assets were being utilized, maybe there's potential. And that would be working with the IC or the fire manager overseeing that fire. But for large fires, you're just not going to be able to do it. We have too many aircraft that we would be using.
Thanks, Angie.
All right, let's go back to Bellamy. Go ahead, Bellamy.
I actually didn't have another question unless there's one chat box. I don't know. I thought I had lowered my hand. I'm sorry.
No worries. Anybody else? Come on, I couldn't have more questions. There we go.
Did we? Okay.
Thank you, Scott. I want to keep talking. Go ahead, Scott.
I'm just wondering if anybody can answer a sort of historical policy question. I think that I noticed, and I'm no expert in this, but I think that I noticed after the 2015 fires that there was a big change in response from the state. And that what we would have thought of as a relatively small fire not small, but relatively, would get a big, quick response the next year, as opposed to prior to that. I'm wondering if there was an internal debate and who won and what happened there, if that's pertinent. I don't know if anybody here can answer that, but I've always been curious about that.
So to clarify, Scott, you're referring to the 2016 season, and you're asking if there was any sort of internal discussion that happened that changed response time in 2016, correct?
Yeah, well, after the big 2015 fires, all of a sudden the next year it seemed like everything was much quicker coming from the state.
Gotcha. Anyone here who wants to or is able to speak to that?
Yeah, yes, I can touch on that a little bit. I do know, I cannot be specific as to the year, but we have increased our initial attack positions. And I'm hoping Angie can help me with this, but we find out that there's going to be critical fire weather in Yakima this weekend, red flag warning. We want our assets. Well, if they're windy, we can't get our air assets, but we want to stage assets closest to where we think fire will blow up. Is that what am I right, Angie, in saying that?
Yeah, and I would say also part of that is just this maybe more cohesive. I don't have the history, but I just in the 2 years I've been here, just getting our aviation program really synced up with our field folks, I think has helped. So I would offer that as well. They have more tools in the toolbox to use now, so that could be part of it. And then just this, maybe some of the thought of, we don't ever want that to happen again, kind of a feel as well. So we're doing all we can to make sure that we're increasing our mitigation efforts through forest health and resiliency. We have our strategic plan goals and objectives. Those kinds of things are all starting to take shape. We've got 1168 now that will bring some funding to help us increase capacity. So I think, overall, I think people just don't want to see that happen again. And so we're really maybe doing a better job of working together and putting a lot of emphasis on keeping fires small.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Did we hit everything, you guys?
I did. I vaguely remember someone asking, I think this was Bellamy, asking a question about climate change. Did I see a climate change?
Yes.
Did that already get handled, Janet? Did you already answer
No, it did not.
Actually, I think that was Paige. Maybe
yeah, that was me, Paige at KUOW. And I know that's a big question, so you don't need to spend a ton of time on it, but just wanted to hear your insight. This is, we're in for warmer summers. How's the state responding, or what's your response this year?
Sure. So this is a question the commissioner would generally answer, but I've been on enough of her interviews to figure out how she would generally answer it. So I'll take this one. So basically, I mean, we are experiencing these hotter summers. It appears likely that we will continue to experience them going forward for a multitude of reasons, climate change being a predominant one. And so we're really just approaching it from a perspective of a three-pronged response, right? Number one is obviously an increase in suppression in our firefighting force. We're going to have more fires, changing our strategies and the number of resources we have to address those fires and when they happen and when they occur is just a natural part of the equation. The second part of that three-pronged response, is restoration and resiliency in our forests, making sure that the landscape is as prepared as possible to handle an increase in fires, weeding out those dead and dying trees in our forests that are more susceptible to flames through measures like mechanical thinning and prescribed burns, and really doing our best to help Mother Nature prepare for the increase in fires. And then the third prong of that response is community resiliency, educating the public about the increase in fires, helping them prepare their own properties through programs like Firewise, through programs like Wildfire Ready Neighbors. There are a couple more that I'm blanking on right now, but doing our part to make sure that communities are ready for a future that is going to contain more fires. That's the three-pronged approach that we're deploying right now under the leadership of Commissioner Franz. Looks like I have a question here from Luke, who is interested to hear an answer to Ramon's question for Ryan. How much advance notice do you need to get out? How many people can you accommodate? Ryan, do you want to take that one?
Is he? He's
He's
not.
muted.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, there we go. Thank you. I don't need to tell you that firefighting is inherently dangerous. So I want you to be able to get out and tell your story as safely as possible. If you want to go directly out to the fire line where actual active firefighting is taking place, as much notice as you can give me, because there's a lot of safety stuff we're going to have to check off. There's a lot of stuff we're going to have to check with the command staff before we do that, and maybe even do some additional training for you if that's the case. If you just need some visuals from, as we talked about, like the barricade or the line itself, if I'm already at that fire, text me and give me a quick heads up. I'll meet you. If you want to go to it, 24 hours is pretty reasonable. For everyone's FYI, I live in Yakima. My office is in Ellensburg, so that gives you a rough time frame of how fast I can get somewhere. But ultimately, I want to work with you to get out to the fire line to tell that story. And as Janet and Thomas had already mentioned too, we're happy to supply you B-roll. I'm able to go directly to the fire line of just about any fire that you're interested in and collect that. And I'd rather go get you the B-roll myself than have to put you in danger at all. But if your story needs to be told from the fire line where active fire is happening, we'll accommodate that. Just give me a reasonable heads up. And as I said, if we get the closer to the line we get, the more safety boxes that we're going to have to check, and that takes longer. But for Eastern Washington, if there's a fire that you're interested in, that you want to go on, that you want to tell a story, give me 24 hours notice, and we'll find a way to make that happen. I want to go take you out and help you tell this story. We want you to go see it.
All right, last call. Anybody else got questions? Looks like we're down to just 39 participants.
Great questions too. Very helpful. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll kick it back to you.
Well, there we go, you guys. I appreciate you sitting through all this, and thanks for hanging in there. Those of you who are still on, we appreciate the questions. And please know, I'm going to email you the box link this afternoon to everything, and our contact information, so you can always call any of us, and we'll work with you to get what you need. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us, and you guys have a great day. And thank you, Angie and Vaughn. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See ya. Thank you.
Thank you.